This week on Media Delta. The Hunt for Red October was a debut novel by Tom Clancy, the author whose name is still being plastered onto military games made by Ubisoft, despite him being dead for quite some time, and even before then, a lot of his work was still being ghostwritten. Clancy's way of meticulously describing the mechanisms for, say, military hardware, and in particular submarines, that are featured in the story Hunt for the Red October, caught the attention of many readers, to the point that it was popular enough to warrant the release of a theatrical motion picture. The movie was directed by John McTiernan, the same director who brought us Die Hard. Its cast was top tier, though maybe not at the time. Time helped with that. And it was relatively popular when it was released. Despite it being not aimed at kids, there were many attempts to make video games based on the movie, aimed at both adults and still for kids. As of this episode, we've only taken a look at the NES game, and we're not very thrilled with it. Let's see if perhaps the movie fares better as we discuss The Hunt for Red October, the movie. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Media Delta. Today we're talking about I think of the things we've taken a look at, I think this is one of the more actual popular things. So I remember this movie being kind of a big deal when it came, even though I really was not old enough to know a whole more movies, because I was only 4 when this came out. But
just a babby.
Yes.
But
yeah.
Why are you all so fucking
this?
young?
92.
92.
But yes.
No, what month is my question?
I think it was May. I want to say it's May. It probably was not May.
I wasn't even born yet.
Oh my god. I was 7 when this came out.
But yes. We're talking a relatively bigger movie because this was pretty popular. We're talking about The Hunt for Red October, which originally based on a Tom Clancy novel, the same name. We are talking about the movie version of it, directed by John McTiernan of Die Hard fame. As you heard earlier, I am not the only one who also watched that movie. So, who do I have with me in alphabetical order?
Hi, I'm Axe, and I'm going deep in it. Going deep in it. I said the sub's so good, I could sleep in it.
I'm deaf.
I'm TorpidTypist, and I'm afraid of deep water, so this was an experience. Also, this was released in 1990, motherfucker.
Okay, so yes, it was March 1990, I see. Yes, doing a quick little fix.
I was 5 years old then.
Yeah, I was 2.
I wasn't even a twinkle in my father's eye.
Neither was
Actually, I
then.
think anyway. So this is probably the sort of a history of what Hunt for Red October. This was the novel that this wasn't Tom Clancy's first novel, but it was one of his more. It was the one who put him on the map. There is a story. I don't know if it's apocryphal or not, that he did so much research about the submarines in this movie, and put that into this book, which is kind of his military detail, is kind of his signature. And he was so detailed with the submarines and prototype craft that he got visited by the Navy, I believe. It was like, hey, how do you know all this stuff? And that apparently happened. Yes. Originally came out in the movie came out in 1990. I'm trying to figure out when. Yeah, it was the novel came out in 1984. It makes the setting of this movie a lot more actually makes sense. It's not quite when this. Well, I guess technically the Cold War didn't end until 91, but still. Anyway, to talk about this movie, we are going to follow the question format that we have. I have 8 questions to talk about that we are all going to take turns answering in alphabetical order and then reverse for the following question. So, first question that we have, and I'll have Axe start this. What's the scene that you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, the one that jumps out to me just immediately is just James Earl Jones. The first time we see his character, and he's just so bombastic. He's just so in the scene. And it's little moments like that. And reason why it stands out to me is just so much of this movie is very kind of bland, very dry. And it's a movie about submarines, so how exciting can you be? And then you've got James Earl Jones just sort of leaping out the screen at you, just saying, "Hi, how are you?" in that deep James Earl Jones voice, and it just sticks with you.
Yeah, I could definitely agree with that. Death?
I was actually having a hard time picking one for this because like there are a lot of scenes in this that I liked and thought was interesting. But I guess if I had to pick one, it's the point where Jack Ryan's trying to convince the captain of the Dallas that Sean Connery's character is trying to defect, and he basically just bullshits some stuff, and then like later on when he's asking about it, says, "Yeah, I made that up. I needed you to believe me."
That was a pretty good scene. It was practically a coin flip because it was like, okay, is it going to go to starboard or is it going to go port side?
And then the captain's like, "Oh, my Morse code's kind of showing. I may be sending him. They made up the month."
So, Torpo.
Honestly, mine is this is a little after Sean Connery's character had revealed to the crew, not the crew, but like the higher staff, that they were going to and he was laying down while the captain of was sitting down, and they were just having this long conversation about what they wanted to do when they got to America after this was over. And I felt Sean Connery really sold how just tired and weary of war his character was. And I actually thought it was a really good.
It also was nice that they had everybody sing.
Yes.
And they caught it on sonar. It was great.
Yeah, it's that kind of scene is like a signature. It is like, because the thing, and especially since it was going to go kind of a little bit into the scene that I was talking about. Tom Clancy has a basically any scene of his in any of his books where it's not specifically a military operation, it's just not good at all. Like, it is just hilarious how, like, I don't want to say like strawmanishly Russian or like stereotypically Russian, like the things that are like, is because my scene was going to be when the political officer is in Ramius's office, and then Ramius just straight up kills him, like just straight up murders him, like just all of a sudden.
Slams him into a table.
Or basically he's like rubbing into us like, "Oh yeah, what do you think? This is Soviet Russia. You have no privacy. Everything, like, this ship is like it's a property of the people because we're communist."
Yeah,
it's just
it definitely does have a very hoorah America vibe. If
but the thing is, just even for a Clancy film, like, this is like didn't go full on Clancy, but it feels very reserved in its stereotypical attitude towards Russians. Like, it doesn't go full on; it just has those little hinges of like, yeah.
I mean, in general, it's like weirdly anti-war compared to most of Clancy's stuff.
Yeah. That also could be work of the director as well, because I've never actually read the full novel of this. I have read some of his, like, more listened to, but through audiobook. But I've listened to like Rainbow Six and like The Bear and the Dragon and like Executive Orders. Yeah, I bet you in the novel it was a lot more gung ho about that kind of thing. Like Rainbow Six, like, if at some point we ever get to the novel of Rainbow Six, that is a novel in which this takes place in like 2000, and for some reason, we're just gonna revive the IRA in the Red Army faction for reasons. But yeah, so yeah, that the scene with the political officer in the office was kind of my scene that I wanted to talk about. Since we talked about kind of the scenes fitting, that we talk about the kind of setting and the characters. So how did you feel about the setting / characters, Torpo?
I mean, the setting itself is it exists, I guess. It's fucking Cold War bullshit. I mean, there's not much to be said about the setting itself. That's not the point. The characters vary widely, but like Sean Connery's character is actually really good. Trying to remember the name of the other characters.
Jack Ryan.
Jack Ryan was completely uninteresting.
Yeah, this is Alec Baldwin.
He
very
is
young Alec Baldwin.
with a fucking shag carpet on his chest.
Yes.
America.
No. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
carpet
No,
of
but like
peace.
legit, like his character is not interesting. He's like fucking hero protagonist.
Yeah, pretty much.
James Earl Jones was good. Admiral Greer. I thought he did a really good job. Let's see. Fucking Sam Neill's character, which was Vasily that I mentioned, also pretty good, though it was very obvious he was going.
Yeah.
They threw flags up left and right. There was also
The moment
Montana.
the moment that you say is like, I want to have maybe a recreational vehicle in Montana and maybe need 2 wives.
That whole monologue is just him
And raise
saying, "I'm gonna
rabbits.
fucking die so bad." He's 2 days from
Yeah.
retirement, folks. He's gonna die.
Other than that, there was one other character who I really liked. I don't remember his name, but he was basically the sort of the sonar guy and audio engineer from the Dallas. Yeah, Courtney B. Vance's character, which would be Seaman Jones, who was actually really good. I actually liked him a lot.
Yeah, he was pretty good. Yeah, what about you?
Setting wise, like Torpid said, it's Cold War stuff. Nothing really stands out super much. I thought most of the characters were good though, because yeah, I liked Seaman Jones, like Scott Glenn, who was the captain of the Dallas.
Yeah, Scott Glenn was pretty good.
Fred Dalton Thompson in his like couple scenes, he stood out too. He's the captain of the ship they're on before Jack Ryan went to Dallas. I didn't actually hate Jack Ryan's character as much as you did, because like his character's not really supposed to be like an actiony character, if that's what happened in like the final scene. He's supposed to just be an analyst.
I mean, I never expected him to be like a action hero, but he has this very hero protagonist vibe.
He kind of has he's a Swiss Army knife
Yeah.
protagonist, and that is
Yeah.
like he's mostly there to do, like, he serves as like the analyst when there's a lot of like analysis stuff that's going on, but if he needs to do shooting, he can do shooting.
He exists
And-
to move the plot, and it feels like little. But I did want to say real quick, I felt Tim Curry was fucking wasted on
Yes.
this movie.
He
Very
was
much. Like,
very, very chill in this compared to most of his stuff.
Not just that, he got a fucking bit part. Like, the
Yeah, he's only
character
in
he
it for a
plays
couple
gets
scenes.
very little screen time and exists only to just go, I love Russia.
Yeah, I think that I wonder how much of his time on this movie was what he pulled back on when he was eventually needed to escape capitalism. Yeah.
And yeah, the thing, like I didn't like Alec Baldwin as Jack Ryan, but he's better than some of the other people stuff who played the role. Ben Affleck,
Ben Affleck, the
and, like the later,
Jim from The Office.
yeah, like even like Chris Pine and Harrison Ford. Like,
Harrison Ford did an okay job.
that was supposed to be old man Jack Ryan, so yeah, I guess so.
Alec Baldwin felt perfectly fitting as Jack Ryan, but that's because Jack
Yeah.
Ryan's kind of, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Ax?
All right. So setting, I mean, I think we're all in agreement here. It's Cold War. The Cold War is really all about tension and sort of like flexing at each other. So there really wasn't going to be a whole lot to it, and there's not a whole lot you could really tell a story about that. But I did like that they focused on sort of that weary, like Torpid brought up, that weariness of endless wars, and Connery's like, my wife died, while I was at war, and I really wasn't even doing anything. So like everything just seems pointless, and it's so weird seeing that from anything Tom Clancy does, especially if you know his later works. So like I feel like this is one of his more like laid back kind of works, and it shows in just how all the characters are written, not to be like bang bang shoot 'em up, but more there's a lot of, I want to just say, the word desolation behind all the stuff that's going on. Everybody's tired and they're stressed and tense because of the Cold War, and it shows in all of the little subplots that keep popping up between the different characters. And going to the characters, you've got your stereotypical motherland Russia guy that gets fucking offed right at the start. Then you've got Tim Curry, like you said, wasted. Total great potential with Tim Curry, completely just not spent. You've got your 2 days from retirement with Sam. But what struck me so great was them trying to pass off Sam Neill, who's a New Zealander, Sean Connery, who's a Scot, and Tim Curry, who's a Brit, all as Russians. And honestly, none of them really sold me on that.
Well, they got away with it because they deliberately had nobody speak with a fake Russian accent. And I appreciate that.
They did actually have some people speak in Russian, which was good.
Well, yeah, speaking Russian was good, but I meant like when they were speaking in English, they didn't have an accent. Well, accent.
Right. They didn't go offensively stereotypical accent style, and I do appreciate that. But it still was funny to me to hear Sean Connery in his full Sean Connery voice playing a Russian. I just like that they tried to soul us three, but So, I mean, but even that, like all the characters except for, I'd say, Alex's character, I thought Jack Ryan was not only dull, but he's the movie's Mary Sue. He's the Mary Sue of America. Like he magically talks this guy down with a bunch of bullshit, and also he serves as sort of the linchpin to saving Sean Connery's ass. He saves the entire ass of everybody there, because if they were to have opened fire, that could have actually started a war with Russia that they didn't seem to realize. So it's just having the lone American being the sole voice of reason between all of that kind of falls into that underpinning of jingoism that was stylistic of Clancy's writing. So I really could have done without Jack Ryan altogether. But, all the other characters really were interesting, and they had backgrounds that they tried to build on, and I liked this cast. I thought it was I had a hard time sitting through the movie because it's 2.5 freaking hours long, but I felt the cast holds the film.
Yeah, the characters are really good. You mentioning that it's interesting having those people as a fake Russian. Remind me of Die Hard, the other movie that he directed, where you had a British man as a German and a Russian as a German, so it kind of goes around.
Actually, I'd say about that too, because I'm glad they didn't try to have them try to do fake Russian accents at all, because if they couldn't do it, they couldn't do it. And like within this movie, there's an example of that happening, because like Yates McFadden as like Jack Ryan's wife, she has one scene in the whole movie.
Yeah.
And during that scene, she goes from a British accent to an American accent in the course of one line.
Yeah.
Also, as a quick aside, Sean Connery's toupee cost $20,000.
Huh.
Also, your story, Lolo.
Yeah.
It's specifically after the release of the novel, some members of Congress contacted the CIA, demanding to know why the Russians had invented a caterpillar drive before the U.S. Navy did.
Huh. Interesting.
Like Clancy sort of had Jack Ryan's backstory of writing nonfiction novels for the government.
Also, I think when you were thinking of being approached by the government, you're thinking of Dr. Strangelove, I think it was.
Oh, maybe that was
where Kubrick's crew got approached by the government because they had so closely replicated the interior of a bomber.
Oh, okay.
Forgetting that Stanley Kubrick is a freaking madman.
Yeah.
And his attention to detail is terrifying.
Yeah, they thought he was a spy, basically.
No, he's just Stanley Kubrick.
So, I'm actually going to skip over to a question because I think we talked about it a little bit. We mentioned the casting quite a bit. So, how do we feel about the casting overall? Just like the strength of this cast, starting Axe.
I mean, I did already say it, but I'll say it again. This is a really strong cast, and that's kind of a gimme because you've got Connery, you've got Sam Neill, you've got James Earl Jones, even to a degree, Tim Curry. I mean, you have people who were already established by the time this movie came out as solid actors, and putting them all together with really strong material. And Clancy, for all his works, he does have a strong writing style. So there's no way that this was gonna bomb. This was a fantastically acted film, and they picked all the right people for this, even if it's a little.
All right, Death.
Yeah, the casting was very strong for this movie. I can't think of anyone I'd really switch out. And actually, the thing we keep mentioning Tim Curry, like he was like very subdued with normal roles, but I don't think Tim Currying it up would have been right for this movie.
Oh, it absolutely wouldn't have been. The one thing I did want to point out, because I just need to think about it, but some of the acts you were mentioning, like especially like Sam, like if I'm thinking about at the time of 1990 when this originally came out, because this was pre Jurassic Park, right?
Mhm.
So this, I don't know, did Sam Neill have as much of a career at that point? Because I don't know if he was really in anything big until like Jurassic Park, but that's just I'm just not super familiar with his work.
No, I'm looking at nothing really stands out to me.
And
Yeah.
also like Tim Curry, like I think we kind of know him, but I don't know if like Clue was probably his most mainstream. Like he was always like a side actor. Like I know he showed up in a lot of and Sean Connery definitely was big, and Alec Baldwin I don't think was really
He
big
was
at that
newish.
time. What was he in?
No, I said he was newish as far as like.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
he started acting in 1987. So
Yeah,
Well-
because Park came out 3 years later. This was his first Neil's first like international role in The Omen. So
Also, Clue
Hmm?
was 5 years before.
yeah,
was it?
yeah, oh yeah,
Yeah.
Clue was definitely 5 years. Yeah, because Clue was definitely 80s.
But yeah, as far as like a big hit, Hunt for Red October arguably is like his breakout in
Yeah.
international because he was already fairly big in New Zealand.
Yeah, and Alec Baldwin, the only other really big movie he was in before this, I don't even know if this was really big, but Beetlejuice was probably his biggest one before this.
Hmm.
She's Having a Baby, I think, was relatively big, and also Working Girl. But yeah, Hunt for Red October was probably his biggest role, or his first really big role.
All right, so I'll kind of modify what I said.
But
You
yeah,
had
in a sense,
some
it was
big names. But
so yeah, there were names, but they were definitely they would eventually have chops.
it didn't seem out of place. Like you mentioned when we did Die Hard, how casting Bruce Willis, people are like, no. Whereas like I don't think anybody really would have questioned having any one of these people added onto these particular roles.
Yeah. Also, James Earl Jones to mention again.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm just kind of looking at the names of all the people. Yeah, because none of these other names are super standing out. Yeah. So Torpo, what do you think about the casting?
I thought the casting was really solid overall.
Yeah.
Like, it was a very star-studded cast. Well, would be nowadays, but that said, Sam McNeil is always fun for me because all I think of is Event Horizon.
Which is such a good movie.
It's such a terrible, great movie.
I don't even consider it terrible. I think it's a good sci-fi.
It is
horror.
pure schlock.
It's schlock, but it's good schlock.
Yeah, no, it's
not bad.
enjoyable. But
Yeah.
my point stands. I think it's a really good cast. Sean Connery really sells the war-weary Russian captain,
Yeah.
and just all of it in general. I think is really.
Yeah. The casting in this is phenomenal. There's not that many things I would change, like Alec Baldwin's doing now, but yeah, he did a relatively good job of this. So yeah, next question I have is how'd you feel about the flow of this movie? I think start with Torpo.
So this is, by its very nature, a very slow movie. It's 2 hours 15 minutes, and I can guarantee you action is not happening for a good chunk of that. It's a plot that moves in fits and spurts, and well, it's not necessarily a bad thing. I know it makes it harder to watch for some people, but I mean, it's about naval warfare and fucking political intrigue during the Cold War. It's not exactly gonna be a fucking hell of a time, I guess.
Yeah.
I still think it works for what it is, though, and I did find it enjoyable regardless.
Yeah. I could definitely see that, yeah. So what about you, Death?
So probably gonna be in the minorities, but I thought it was fine because like it is a long movie, but I enjoy stuff. No point where it ever really dragged for me. Like everything just flowed well.
All right, next.
So I'm gonna have to eat a couple words I said before we started recording this. I said that I probably would have been able to sit through Das Boat better than this. Das Boat's like 5 hours long, so I'm wrong. This is like 2.5 hours, and that's so. Given that in mind, and also just kind of like having a little time to process everything I watched, and so it's a long film, and I've sat through a lot of long, and it's a long film where not a lot happens at certain times. It's people talking, and it's not an action film. It's political intrigue, and I don't really. I'm a political person, but I don't like political intrigue movies. They don't interest me for some reason. So like, it dragged for me in that regard. But to take that away, it's paced really well. It flows really well. You know, there's no like rambling and running off into different directions and losing sight of the plot. The plot's always there, and what you're doing is you're kind of like it's like a small town. You're going through and you're seeing a bunch of different stories of the different people who are there, their motivations for why they're defecting, what they're hoping for, what they're looking forward to, as well as their hopes and fears in relation to their future and the current situation. And not just with the Russians either. You've got, the American side of things where there are actually some interesting stories amidst, the things that are going on. So, I actually, if I gave it more thought than my initial reaction of, 2.5 hours, I'm bored. Like, it is a good movie and it is well put together.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought that, yeah, it's a long movie. The thing is that, yeah, I could definitely see if you're not someone who is into like the more like, I guess, dramatic in terms of like thriller parts, like the political thriller kind of aspect of it. This is not going to be a movie for you. But if it's one that you can kind of like, if you're a person who likes a slow burn, like a not like actiony movie, like of just things just gradually building up, then yeah, I could definitely see you enjoying this movie. So this kind of movie actually goes on to the next question that I asked, or I was going to ask, is do you think that you can make a movie about submarines actually like thrilling to like a like just like in general an action movie?
I haven't seen too many. I'm gonna be honest. So I if I were to really like put some thought into it, it depends on how you go about it. If you're doing just strictly naval warfare, fuck no. Naval warfare is boring as hell. It's a lot of slow moving and trajectory and planning and plotting, and I could never see that as interesting. But if you had sort of like, God, it would almost feel like people being able to get on board and fighting on board, or just in general, because like I said, I'm not big on political intrigue. This is a hard question for me personally. I don't think so in that regard. I'll just go with that.
All right, Death.
Answer your question from no one else here ever seen Crimson Tide?
I have not.
No.
Nope.
All right. Yeah, it's another submarine, Denzel Washington, about submarine crew, and Hackman's character was the captain on the ship. Washington's character was his second in command. It's basically about a mutiny on board the ship because Hackman's character is a bit of a warmonger with regards to their orders, and Washington's fighting against it. And I thought it's a very interesting movie, so my answer is yes.
Yeah, so what about you, Torbo?
I mean, so the problem is, it's as Zach said, how strictly do you want to adhere to reality? Because like, if you want pure realism, then naval warfare is going to be plotting to some degree.
Yeah, I think that like of all the like combat situations, like specifically submarine combat is like some of the most like, especially considering how math intensive it is, and it's more about like it is a lot of planning and to even like get a simple hit. It's definitely not like dogfighting or like just like standard infantry combat. It does a lot of like it is mostly out mathing the opponent. Which
mostly what the combat in this movie was.
Yeah, yeah. So it's kind of hard.
But it wasn't the focus.
Yeah, like there was like what 3 scenes of like in the combat. By combat, I mean there is a torpedo, like one that has been launched.
I mean, it was multiple at the near the end when the Russian sub had caught up. It was
Yeah.
trying to sink the Red October.
There was the one in the middle where the like bomber plane was. They were in the trench, the outmaneuver.
I think to
No,
make
those scenes are actually pretty good.
I think what they did with the character, you have to have characters. You have to have just like you can't just go into the combat to make a submarine movie good. It's got to be about the people on board and how things are going, and I think that works.
Well, the problem is like the discussion here is like turning into an action-y.
I don't think you could. I don't think you could make an action submarine movie. I think it's got to be character driven.
I think you can, and I have. You know what? No, I think you can. I'll just say that.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, like I've seen that movie, so it can be done.
I've seen it happen in other ways too, but in general, it's completely possible. But it's what kind of story you're trying to tell, essentially.
Because that seems to be. I specifically asked this because, this is more specifically in relation. I might actually, skip the question again because the reason I asked this is because I know that there is another game that we have not taken a look at based on The Hunt for Red October, which is an actual, like, it's a computer game that's more like it's a naval combat sim, which is like more akin to this movie. But we have not seen that. We have seen the side-scrolling action game based on this movie. So if you've seen that and seen this movie, how, like, can you get more different than that? Like, did seeing this, like, if you saw that game first, would that have prepared you for this movie? And I think we're starting with facts.
Are we? Okay. Hell no. That is such a huge fucking difference. This was not about the combat. This was about the people on board and the situation they're in. And the combat was sort of like, oh yeah, right. There is a war going on. They're going to try to sink them or they're going to try to find them. It was a secondary thought. They weren't fighting like huge fucking bases with giant kill me points.
Yeah. So death.
Absolutely fucking not. Yeah, like Axe said, that has nothing to do with this movie. It's basically it's a other thing. Like even the other video game you mentioned, because I've done a bit of that before, still mostly combat based, and there's not a whole lot of that in this. So like,
Torpo?
Yeah. That's really all I need to say.
Because it's funny because that was like one of the first things because I've heard of the movie The Hunt for Red October before, like I had played the game, but I remember seeing like screenshots of it in like a tips and tricks magazine like a book that Nintendo put out that had screenshots of this, and I always thought it was a lot slower. That the game was a lot slower and more methodical, like I'd imagine like the movie would be. But it is not. It is way faster and actiony than it should have been. It is. I think that might be one of the most, did not get the point of the movie, games that I think of. The only one I can think of that is more you did not get the point, and this one's especially egregious, is Platoon. There's a game based on Platoon.
And I have one copy of it.
I
All
do
I'm
as
saying
well.
is I look forward to the hunt for. I look forward to the Hunt for Red October visual novel.
See, like I was gonna say,
that
like,
would be close.
so there's a game called Titanic: Adventure Out of Time. And it's
Oh God, yes.
It's a point and click adventure game, and I feel like Hunt for Red October would have fared a lot better as more point and click adventure game with sort of like maybe like a brief mini game to kind of deal with the whole torpedo section. And I think
I feel like it wouldn't work as an adventure game just because it's
maybe not adventure, but more on the visual novel.
what are
side,
you
but know what
gonna
I mean,
solve on a sub?
Not in that regard though. That's what I mean. Just more like kind of like how Titanic was, where it was a point and click adventure game, but it was more about interacting with people and learning about them and navigating like conversation stuff. And I think Hunt for Red October would have fared a little bit better that way.
See, the thing that I'm actually now thinking of would be a good template for this kind of game is SOS.
Okay.
That might be kind of interesting to have like a thing where you're just kind of walking around and just kind of interacting with things based on a timer. But yeah, that's kind of what I could think of. Because that is, as I said, this is one of the most egregious cases of you did not get the point of this movie at all. Like, there's been like plenty of like bad like shoot 'em ups based on things like Total Recall and like Dirty Harry and all that. But this is just no, that's not what this movie's about. It's not what the book's about. But yeah, speaking of the book, and I forgot again who ended it's Torpo.
It's me.
Does this make you want to look into more Tom Clancy's?
Fuck no. A, because I know what Tom Clancy is, but B, because I don't read, and C, I sure as fuck wouldn't read about this. It's me. I don't read.
But even like so, because there's like other movies based on Tom Clancy, you got like Clear and Present Danger and like Patriot Games, like Some of All Fears.
Legit, I watched this because of this. This isn't my normal wheelhouse. I didn't dislike it. I actually enjoyed the movie. I thought it was pretty good. But like, this is not what I would know.
So watching this did not make you want to go and like, oh, maybe at one point I'd maybe want to watch like Clear and Present Danger.
You're not gonna go out and buy a book of the world's greatest sub.
It's actually all about sandwich making.
Yeah, that would be a book. I would read a book about the world's greatest subs.
I would too.
How about you, Death?
Retroactively?
Yeah.
Because like this was actually the first time I've seen this, and like, yeah, no, I would never read any of Tom Clancy stuff just because I think that I would get through those books. And video game wise, I'm already from most of those, so yeah, no, I'm not really interested.
Okay. Yeah. What about you, Axe?
So, unfortunately, I think we're all unfortunately are poisoned by the fact that we know who Tom Clancy is and how he thinks and feels about. So that kind of taints that answer. So if I were to have not known who Tom Clancy is, the answer would still be no, because again, I don't like political intrigue stuff, and I'm not big into naval warfare and all that. But it would make me more interested in seeing more stuff by the actors than it would anything by Tom Clancy. In fact, for the longest time, I didn't even know this had anything to do with Tom Clancy. My first introduction to this was the game that you guys played. And then later on, I found out, oh, Tom Clancy did this, and he also did Rainbow Six.
Yeah.
But no, like, even forgetting the fact that it's Tom Clancy's work, I just wouldn't have been interested in it. And doubly no, because fuck Tom Clancy.
Okay. Yeah. I am trying to figure out if okay. Yeah, because just to point out, how many pages do you think that this book is? The original book. If you want to just throw out a number.
300 to 400 pages.
Okay. That
I don't even know. I'll just say 500.
Torpo.
I will one up you and say 700.
It's 387.
Oh,
Damn.
I'm trying to see because I know that I'm trying to see how that compares to the length of Rainbow Six. Well, yeah, it's a lot shorter. Because for reference, Rainbow Six is 752 pages.
See, I would have been right for Rainbow Six.
Still would have been low for Rainbow Six.
See, my frame of reference was Stephen King's It was about 1,000 pages, and that's the longest book I've ever written. And I don't think Red October though.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised at how short that is compared to his other books. But yes, that definitely, yeah, I could definitely see where this is like not the black sheep, but it's like yeah, it's kind of interesting that this is like Tom Clancy, but then again, it's really early Tom Clancy.
This is before he kind of went off.
And I think we've already talked about this one. This is our final question. Do you think this movie is even good for making a video game?
Yeah, 100%. I like I said, if you were to put it in like a VN or a VN adventure, I think you could make something fairly interesting. Hell, you could probably even do a board game out of it, sort of like I don't want to say Secret Hitler, but just something where you have players working together no, it would be more like Pandemic in a way, where you have players working together towards a goal, and maybe have somebody be like play the opposite side, or have two teams one another. Like, there are a number of different ways you could sort of gamify this entire concept, but I think it could work.
Okay, would it be you, Death?
I don't know, honestly. Like what Torvin said, this would, if it could work, it would have to be like because like Yeah, I don't know else context. It's mostly like a political.
Okay, Torpo.
Oh.
Oh.
I do have like a second half of this because related to just Emerald, because like I'm honestly surprised at, like Jack Ryan's.
Yeah, because it's always either, well, it's really just like Rainbow Six, and like
Yeah,
what-
I don't know what the loot book stuff.
Yeah, 'cause
is, like
the Sum of All Fears was John Clark, wasn't it?
it was Jack Ryan too, but Clark was also in it.
Okay. So I couldn't remember because I know they made a Sum of All Fears game, and I can't remember if that's team based.
Because
Or-
yeah, like go ahead.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if it was like a Rainbow Six clone, but yeah, I can't think of any game that you specifically play as Jack Ryan.
'Cause, yeah, they've never really done like spy games like Splinter Cell, and that's more just sneaking around than actual like actual spy stuff like Alpha Protocol,
Like proper espionage,
like proper
kind of
spy stuff, sneaking
You-
around stuff.
You're more of like not like an assassin, but just very much like you're trying to be a goat. You're not trying to learn anything. You're just trying to not get caught.
Well,
It also bears noting that Tom Clancy's writing is so very like one-noted that there is a website that you can go to and you pull some drop downs and it will generate a Tom Clancy plot based on bad guys picked, scheme picked, third party picked, stake picked, hero, and
That sounds about right.
it's really funny.
Like, yeah, because
I'm just gonna drop the link there.
yeah, I'm just thinking of like Rainbow Six, and like the whole plot of that is basically environmentalists or like corporation led by environmentalists is going to cause an Ebola virus at the Olympics that's going to kill 98% of the people, and then somehow and then like that corporation's also recruiting the IRA. Basically recruits this guy who brings in the IRA, the Red Army faction, I'm trying to think of some of the other ones. I think just some random bank robbers and I think Basque separatists. Like it's basically the, hey, here are these terrorists that have no longer been anywhere relevant. And yeah,
the video games, so it's like even like the first one based on novel, they just dropped all that in favor of like shit that
Making
makes
it
sense.
good.
yeah,
Wow.
and then like once, I mean the only time that like the Rainbow like the Tom Clancy games would go into like actual Tom Clancy territory was that lovely period in the mid 2000s when they would like when Graw and Rainbow Six Vegas, when it was kind of pointed towards Mexico a lot.
That's
That,
putting it kindly.
Yeah.
As someone who has also played Vegas.
Oh, I like Vegas. It's a decent
Vegas is good. No, don't get me wrong.
Actually,
Vegas is fucking great.
actually, I just remembered the plot point of Vegas 2 and now I'm mad.
Well, you can't talk
Which
about it. Just
one?
remember, what happens in Vegas stays in
The fact that Vegas 2's end bad guy is just a guy that was on your team
Yeah.
because he got pissed
that
off
was-
because he screwed up a mission.
Well, they revealed that in the first one. It's just a bit whiny.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's that. That's not
None of this really matches up to the greatest Tom Clancy game, which is Total or End War or whatever the fuck it was called. The voice
And
one.
War.
Yeah.
The good.
End
That
War.
was good. It's the best game.
Anyway, yes. Also, you mispronounced Hawks, the flight sim. Anyway, yes, that is the hunt for Red October.
Wait,
so-
I still never even answered the question.
oh wait,
Yeah.
Wait,
Oh my
yes.
fucking god,
Wait,
Lolo! Y'all,
okay.
y'all went so hard off topic that you dropped me like a sack of shit.
Okay, Torpo, do you feel this movie is prime for video games?
Don't answer it out of pettiness.
Yes. See, I joked about the visual novel, but there's another take you could also go with it. Which, are you familiar with Silent Hunter 3?
I
No.
think I've heard of it.
Kind of, sort
It is a submarine sim about being a U-boat in World War II during the Battle of the Atlantic, and it's very much about being on a sub, driving a sub, using a sub to fight other things, and moving that sub all over the place for things like actually fighting escorts, all that. And I feel like you could take that and make it far more objective oriented with more modern sub stuff, and actually have that be an interesting Hunt for Red October type game, in my opinion at least.
And a lot of Hunt for Red October was about them trying to stay quiet and not get caught. So you could
Yeah.
also go like a stealth route in terms of like your gameplay style, where you're trying to avoid being detected in a number of certain circumstances.
Because yeah, like Silent Hunter 3 is one of those. It's very hardcore like sub sim type deal.
Yeah, also to point out, there is also the Silent Hunter series. There's also the Silent Service series that Sid Meier worked on. That also, I believe, is very similar to that.
But yeah, so I figured like a more intense sub sim, but it's much more story and objective oriented, could actually really work for this.
What about you, Lo?
I mean, yeah, those work. Like there are good sub sims. Like I'm sure, like the Hunt for the Red October, like the computer game, is more combat focused. But yeah, I was trying to think. I thought that Koei had a submarine game, but I was thinking of Uncharted Waters, which is definitely not submarines. And yeah, the only I can't remember. No, that one's a lot more action based. So I was thinking Treasures of the Deep, which is another submarine game. But also there is the complete opposite. If you want to, it's great because the Great Hunt for Red October like sub game wasn't even the best kind of actiony sub game. Which if you want that, In the Hunt is definitely a good game for that. But yes, okay. I think that is it for Red Hunt for October. I think everyone's answered every question. Okay, so I think we can now go on and rank this, actually. So, yes, on here we have a 1 to 21 ranking scale, where 1 is considered mastercraft and can't be beat, practically, and 21 being don't even bother. Like, it's not even fun watch. It is just complete trash. Axe, what number are you thinking on the scale?
This is a blue movie. I mean, it's not purple. It's not a really great film, but it's very competent at what it does. Especially, again, I'm giving it extra credit for being a Tom Clancy story that isn't racist or just garbage, you know. So I'm gonna say anywhere between 5 and 8.
Okay. What about you, Death?
Yeah, but I liked it a bit better than that because it's not a perfect film. I have seen better, but I think I'd go with 6.
Okay. What about you, Torpo?
Yeah, I'd say 5 or 6. And also, I realized that we never actually talked about what the plot was.
Oh.
I mean, hey,
Then never.
I was gonna say, basically, guy wants to defect. He's a sub captain. He has a death. So he's on a death submarine, but he realizes that this is going to start World War III. I'm defecting.
Yeah, the submarine was
tired
specifically
of war where nothing happens. I just want.
The submarine was
wife died
specifically
while I was out at
designed.
sea.
Yeah, it was designed specifically to be. It was the first submarine supposed to have like extremely advanced stealth technology and could easily turn the tide of the Cold War if they needed to. And so the guy who lost his wife while he was basically defecting because hey, why not America?
It's basically. I was gonna say it's if Liquid just gave up Metal Gear.
I love it.
Because essentially the Red October is essentially treated like a Metal Gear.
Well, the Red October is a machine meant to start World War III, but it's supposed to hit hard and fast because it is the size of an aircraft carrier and has a massive payload on it.
Right, but it also has, like I said, that stealth technology with the Caterpillar.
Yeah, so it can sneak up.
Yeah.
So essentially Metal Gear.
Yeah, Metal Gear.
Basically, yeah. But what?
Oh, wait, 5 or 6. I'd say 5 or 6.
Yeah, it seems like in general consensus, and it sounds like 6 is probably a good one for this. Yeah, just right below the Indigo, but yeah, I think because it's a well done movie. Like I can't think much. Like the only thing that I can think of that I didn't care for, I'm like, it's just the kind of movie that it is. But I'm not going to fault it for doing that because it's not like you can't make a movie that I'm not going to like. It isn't my cup of tea. But yeah, I think 6 is probably a spot for this. Let's see, The Hunt for Red October. This movie came out this 12. This came out in 1990. It was Sean McTiernan was the director. This came out in theaters. This is, I would probably say, war.
Yeah. This is 100% war.
War or drama.
Political.
It is
war.
war.
And then tone.
Tense.
Russian.
Yeah, I'm wondering if what I have. They don't really have a thriller.
Do you have
It's not
tense?
I
I don't have any.
that?
I don't have a taut face.
Yeah, I don't have 10.
You really got to revise this shit.
Yeah. Let's just call this for now. I'm just gonna call it mundane. Just this very tense looking face, I guess. That'll work for it. Okay, so is there anything we want to call out in music, charm, theatrics, or cinematography, theatrics, action, and art?
Up for theatrics. I also think the cinematography was pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay.
Music was good.
Okay.
Had a decent.
Anything else?
Not off the top of my head.
I don't know, cause like that scene where they all kind of in unity just start singing. I don't know. There's weird little bits of charm to it. Like the overall film doesn't have charm, but there are little moments that give it sort of not just like a little bit of charm. It feels kind of like homey in a way, where you're seeing these characters sort of ready to build these new lives, and you get to hear about it. I don't know. There's a little charm.
There's a little bit. I don't know if I'd call it out though for it, because it's like a lot of the movie. It's not like that.
This is true. It does bear being mentioned though.
Anything in regards to yay or nay? So because we mentioned that it's long, but I don't know if I'd call it out for that.
No, it's
I
as long
wouldn't.
as it needs to be.
I thought it was long. It could have been a little short. It could have done with a few less Jack Ryan scenes.
Langston.
Fine,
Yes,
I'll sit in
and
my
I felt
corner.
it's-
Fuck all of you.
I felt it was as long as it needed.
It could have been 2 hours, and I think
Yeah, it's 2 hours and 15 minutes is the full length. So it's not 3 hours.
yeah, thank God for that.
Yeah, it's not Titanic.
I already felt bad that we were doing a
Endgame.
2+ hour movie because of me. So
Titanic, where I will eventually draw the line.
okay, no, but there is a Titanic game based on the movie, fucker. So guess
I will
what?
Throw you in the trash.
I mean, remember we're doing series at some point, so length of movie is not. This is just one thing.
Yeah, but it's just like
I know.
Titanic is not my thing. Is more what I.
Oh, yeah,
It's a
that-
3-hour fest of suck, and I am so down with.
Well, we'll see. Anyway, yeah, I can't think of anything specifically for you. I think this is probably good as it is. All right. So there we have The Hunt for Red October. So, with that, Axe, is there anything you want to plug?
I do a Twitch series at twitch.tv/AxeImmortal, and you can also catch the videos, same address, but YouTube.
Okay. Death?
I do. Yeah, no good reason. Mixer.com/Deathmaster780.
Okay. Turbo?
Twitch.tv/TorpidTypist, and I would like to plug the holes in my sub.
That's just Swiss cheese.
I mean, honestly, we're already dead is the problem, because if there are holes in the sub, you've got bigger problems. But,
That's some
Yeah.
decompression.
well, not decompression. It's the opposite
Drowning.
problem, actually.
Or what's
Compression.
Drowning.
It's compression. You'll be
There.
crushed.
there you go. Thank you. Shut up. I know my son.
All right. So, yes, that'll do it for that. So, next episode, we have something interesting because we have a web cartoon. So,
Oh, Jesus.
the next thing we are taking a look at is Shifty Look's Mappy series,
Yes. Actually, that stuff's really good.
which is an interesting thing.
Shifty Look is interesting. It has a history.
Yes, rest in peace. So yes, we will be taking a look at that next episode. So, thank you all for listening. This has been another episode of Media Delta. If you would like to view the entire list of rankings for yourself, you can go to r3.ldp.life to see the Resonance and Essence list that Media Delta covers, as well as the other lists that are covered by our sister show, Retro Rank Rhapsody. If you would like to watch Retro Rank Rhapsody, you can watch it live on Fridays at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Saturdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Sundays at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, live on Twitch at twitch.tv/loadedpuzzlo. Or you can view any of the episodes anytime at youtube.ldp.life. If you would like to help with hosting costs, you can go to patreon.ldp.life and help out with a $2 or $5 pledge. If you would like to discuss this episode and any other episode of our community, you can join our Discord server at discord.ldp.life. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, You can follow it at Hazeltown Story, or you can follow me, your host, at Lolo de Puzzlo. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come back for the next episode.